toward left field. Jason Worth venturing back. Did it get over his head? It did! Blanco will score! Freddie Galvis the opposite way! And the Phils score 2 here in the bottom of the 10th inning to come from behind. And they win it by a final score of 3-2. They do it against Jonathan Papelbon, and they salvage this 3-game series. They're here for the first time in 2016, but the Phillies won the last series up at Citi Field, and now they'll go for series number 2. They wrap up the homestand with Game 1 against the New York Mets. Hi, everybody. I'm Tom McCarthy, joined by Ben Davis. We get set for Game 1 against the New York Mets, but we have to think back to yesterday's finale of that 3-game series against the Washington Nationals. It seemed like all hope of getting a victory was lost with 2 outs, but then the Phillies offense came to life.
They bounced back, and you never want to get swept, especially in your home stadium, and the Phillies were able to avoid that yesterday, getting some key hits, some timely hitting out of Peter Bourjos, Andres Blanco, and Freddie Galvis. Hangs a slider here to Peter Bourjos, gets it down the line, just out of reach of Jason Worth, and then Andres Blanco comes up, gets a hanging splitter, shoots it to left, and I just don't know how Peter Bourjos outran this throw by Jason Worth, but he's the fastest man on the team, and that's the reason he was able to score. Freddie Galvis gets a heater up out over the plate, drives it out of the reach of Jason Worth again for the game-winning double.
One thing that Pete Macadam said, he said if anybody else was on second base other than Peter Bourjos, he doesn't think the Phillies would have tied the game up. The other thought, Freddie Galvis had been using a heavier bat for most of the day. He switched to his lighter bat, and he said that paid off against Jonathan Papelbon. All right, so now the Mets are in town. The Phillies had a lot of success against the Mets up at Citi Field. From a numbers standpoint, neither team scored a whole lot of runs, but the Phillies will take what their starters did and what the relievers did.
They were able to take 2 out of 3 from those Metropolitans in Citi Field, and they did it, like you said, Tom, with the starting pitching. A 2.16 ERA over those 3 starts, just outstanding by the Phillies starters. The bullpen held their own and were able to eke 2 wins up at Citi Field.
All right, so the task is a little tougher, though, tonight, because for the first time this year, the Phillies will face Noah Syndergaard. He'll be opposed by Jerad Eickhoff. Eickhoff was excellent in his last outing and pretty good against the Mets. We'll get to lineups at first pitch when we return. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. By Toyota. Toyota's hybrid fleet is nothing short of a home run. Visit your local Toyota dealer today. By Citizens Bank. The next time you have a question about money, don't keep it to yourself. Ask a citizen. And by Independence Blue Cross. Live fearless. Learn more at IBX.com. Asian Pacific celebration here at Citizens Bank Park. Some of the festivities that took place prior to the start of the ball game tonight between the Mets and the Philadelphia Phillies. A lot of music being played, a lot of dancing, a lot of loud drumming going on. Here's Jerad Eickhoff getting set to take the hill for the Phils, making his second start of this homestand. The Phillies hope the start tonight is as good as it was his last time out. Let's take a look at the Mets lineup. It's brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. Granderson, Wright, and Conforto. Cespedes bats cleanup, then Lucas Duda and Neil Walker. And the bottom third of his Drupal Cabrera, Kevin Plawecki, and Syndergaard, who has been flat dominant so far to start the season. Eickhoff's numbers are fairly dominant too. 12 strikeouts in 12 innings of work, just a couple walks. He comes in with a record of 1-1 and an ERA, Ben, of 1.50.
He has been throwing the ball very, very well for these fighting Phils, and he's had a lot of starts against the Mets. Take a look at the scouting report. He'll sit right at about 9. He's a 4-pitch pitcher. The curveball has been very good for him this year, and like I said, against the Mets, he's been pretty good, although the win losses wouldn't show that, but the ERA is down.
Well, last time out, the curveball was excellent, and he said if he has it early, that he knows it's going to be a good night. Curtis Granderson will lead things off for the Mets. Granderson hitting a .156 so far, and he takes a fastball a little high, so we're underway. Granderson's hit in 5 straight to raise his average to 156. It was a tough start for him. Hits one right back to the mound, and Eickhoff will go halfway to flip it underhand. Time now for our cold hard facts, brought to you by Coors Light. The 2016 Phillies are one of just 5 major league teams since 1900 to have 3 different pitchers aged 25 or younger strike out at least 9 hitters in a start with no walks. They joined the 07 Devil Rays, the 01 A's, the 65 Tigers, and the 65 Milwaukee Braves. And that is why everybody feels the future is bright for this ball club. David Wright swings at the first pitch and pops it to the right of home plate and out of play. And it's 0-1. Well, I guess they're going to be aggressive tonight against Jerad Eickhoff. At least the first 2 hitters are indicating that.
Try and hit the first straight when you see. He gets that breaking ball going, gets you down in the count. They know how good it is. They want to be aggressive against the fastball.
David Wright has 1 hit in 6 at-bats against Jerad Eickhoff. There's that curveball. I think that's how you have to pitch David, is either fastball in or throw him the curveball and then start to go away a little bit against him. Sometimes he adjusts to it. Early on in his career, he was excellent at it. There's a curve again. That one's in there. It's 1-2. Well, looks like it's a pretty good one tonight.
3 in a row.
Yep, 2 balls and 2 strikes. He did back it up his last outing, and there was one occasion that he did throw it 3 straight times. So he's not afraid, no matter what the count is, to throw the curveball.
And it's such a feel pitch.
Out to right field. That's well hit, and that is not coming back. David Wright has given the Mets a 1-0 lead. An opposite field home run. It's his 21st career home run here at Citizens Bank Park. But it's 1-0 New York.
As a hitter, you're thinking there's no way he quadruples up on me. You get 3 Uncle Charlies in a row, you're sitting dead red. And that's what David Wright did, and that ball, Tom, was crushed.
I thought maybe they'd go slider here after the curves.
Gets those arms extended and really drives it. He knew it right away.
So 1-0 New York. David Wright's home run, his first of the year.
Hard to believe that was his first homer and first RBI.
Remarkable to think that. He had been 9 for his last 29. So here's Conforto, who they just put into the 3-hole. And this is a good young hitter. 10 hits and 32 at bats. Just 23 years old. He's had good numbers against the Phillies. This is his 14th game. He's hitting over 300 against them. And he hits it foul down the left field line. It's 1-2.
Phillies do have him played the pull in the infield, but in the outfield straight up. He's a guy that uses pretty much the entire field. You see obviously the shift on the right side there, but the outfield will pretty much go straight up.
Just a bit inside, 2-2. Eickhoff at his lone outing against the Mets this year, which was back on the 8th of April. He went 5 innings. He allowed 3 runs. 2 of those runs were earned. Actually went 5+ in that game. That was the one loss the Phillies had up at Citi Field. And now it's 3-2. Cameron Rupp doing the catching tonight. Cespedes waits on deck. Pulled foul, and it remains 3 balls and 2 strikes.
There is one place you can pitch, Conforto. It's in at the belt. You just have to make sure you get it up there far enough.
In the dirt, and it's ball 4, so he draws a walk, and that brings Cespedes to the plate. Well, that brings us to our Nissan keys to tonight's ball game.
Well, they're going against one of the best pitchers in all of baseball, but they got to make sure that they see the heater down. They have to make sure that Syndergaard gets that fastball down in his zone. If you swing at that high one, you're not going to catch up. And Eickhoff, we know the numbers against the Mets, but the Mets make the adjustments. Don't try and change anything that you've been doing against them. Until they prove that they can adjust, stick with your game plan.
Well, he's got to deal with Cespedes now with a runner at first and a run in. Cespedes has 9 runs batted in his last 7 games. Mets, like the Phillies, had been struggling offensively until the Indians series that they just completed. They had scored 20 runs in 8 games prior to the Indians series. And in the Indian series, they scored 17 runs in those 3 games. A little bit of a turnaround. 0-2 to Cespedes. In fact, Terry Collins, who is in his 6th season as the manager of the Mets, before they went on that road trip to Cleveland, he said the one game they had up at Citi Field was a must-win for his team here in the month of April. He kind of meant it more from a psychological standpoint than anything else. 0-2 to Cespedes. They ride it high, and it's 1-2.
It's a pretty strong comment to make this early in the season. I mean, the proverbial panic button has been pressed.
Well, I do think that the one thing about Collins, and we saw this when he was with the Angels and with the Astros, he does wear his emotions on his sleeve, and he's honest. After the Mets won the National League pennant, he received a contract extension. If they hadn't gotten to the postseason, nobody's sure whether he would have come back or not. Swing and a miss. Got him with a breaking pitch. First strikeout for Eickhoff. And there are 2 outs. And Lucas Duda coming up.
That breaking ball, it is tight. Very frustrating for a hitter knowing that a pitcher has a certain pitch and you said, well, if I see this ball down, I'm not going to swing at it. But yet you still do it. And it's very frustrating. There are times where I remember recognize, just because you recognize a pitch doesn't mean you necessarily have to swing at it. I'd be up there and say, oh, there's a breaking ball. And in my mind, I'd tell myself, oh, I recognize it, therefore I can swing at it. Not if it's not a strike.
Towering fly ball to right field. Backpedaling is Hernandez. Coming in is Borges. And Peter makes the catch, and that'll do it for the Mets here in the first. They do strike first, though, on a home run by David Wright. We'll head to the bottom of the first. Trail at 1-0. Noah Syndergaard warming up on the mound. Let's take a glance at the Phillies lineup. It's brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. Galvis, Herrera, and Franco, followed by Ryan Howard, Cameron Rupp, and David Lowe, who was up from AAA Lehigh Valley. He'll be followed by Cesar Hernandez, who drops to the 7 hole. Peter Borges bats 8th, and batting 9th and pitching is Jared Eichhoff. And they will face Noah Syndergaard, the 23-year-old from Marshall, Texas. And those are impressive numbers, to say the least, averaging more than a strikeout, nearly 2 strikeouts per inning pitched.
He is a special pitcher, a.k.a. Thor. Noah Syndergaard, as good as it comes. As we take a look at his scouting report, he'll sit at about 97, believe it or not. Change curve slider, not a whole lot of splits, but a very good record against the Fightins at 2-0 with a 1.46. But again, they have to make sure he gets that fastball down.
A lot of the pregame conversation with Pete Mackanin today was talking about facing Syndergaard and the style that he has. And he said, listen, guys are really good if they execute their pitches. He said, we're hoping that he doesn't execute his pitches. Throws a 100-mile-an-hour fastball for strike one. It's 0-1 to Freddie Galvis.
All men are not created equal, Tom.
It's turned out to be a good trade for the Mets, where they dealt R.A. Dickey to the Blue Jays for Syndergaard and for Travis d'Arnaud. Galvis was 2 for 12 in the series against the Washington Nationals, but he had the big hit, and that was the game winner yesterday, the opposite way. Thought his comments were pretty interesting after the ball game. He said, listen, I've been behind Jonathan Papelbon the last couple of years. I kind of knew how he was going to throw and what he was going to do to me. As he takes inside, 2-2.
It's always good to be a student of the game, and if a pitcher has a tendency, obviously someone like Freddie's going to pick up on that.
Here's the 2-2 pitch to Galvis, and he breaks his bat out to center field. Cespedes comes in and makes the catch. One away. Odubel Herrera's coming up. All right, Murph, so how are the Phillies going to approach Noah Syndergaard tonight?
Yeah, that is the big question. I talked to a couple of the guys in the clubhouse before the game. I said, when you look at a guy and you look at the tape of Syndergaard and what he's done against you, and it's been a small sample size against the Phillies, Ben, as you mentioned, just the 2 games, but he has been dominant. 15 strikeouts, just 2 walks against the Phillies in his 2 outings earlier the last year. But I said to Cameron Rupp, I said, how do you approach that? He said, the bottom line is you got to think that you're only going to get 1 pitch to hit, and if it's in the zone, you're going to have to be aggressive and swing at it. You know, once he gets ahead of you and he's able to use that slider so effectively this year, even more effectively than he was using it a year ago. He has 21 strikeouts already on the season. 11 of those strikeouts have been on that slider. So Cam said you got to try and get ahead of him. You got to try and stay ahead of him, because if he's only going to give you 1 pitch to hit, that's going to be your opportunity. You've got to take it.
Yeah, it's a really good point, is to try to stay ahead. Odubel Herrera, the batter, takes low. 1 ball, 1 strike. You just don't often see a starting pitcher coming out of the gates throwing 100, 101. It's just not normal.
You think? Get it ready.
Inside, 2-1. That's the slider, which is at 92 miles an hour. Pete was asked today about Syndergaard's slider and about him throwing it 92 miles per hour. He said, can you compare it to anybody that you had faced? And he immediately went to J.R. Richard. J.R. Richard, back in 1976, his fastball was registered at 100 miles an hour. Now, they didn't use the radar gun as often during games. His fastball was registered at 100 miles an hour. His slider back in 76 and even beyond that, it's on record as being registered at 92 miles per hour. So the difference between Syndergaard and J.R. Richard is about 2 inches. Syndergaard's 6'6". J.R. Richard is 6'8". And Pete said that makes a big difference.
Like an aspirin coming in there.
There's that slider, or changeup, I should say, swung on and missed, and Herrera is down on strikes, and there are 2 outs. So for a strikeout, and with 2 away, Maikel Franco is coming up. Is that a slider or a changeup?
I believe that was a slider.
Okay.
But that was a nice play by Plawecki just to stop that ball. I don't know how he was able to shift on that side of the plate.
Here's Franco. Franco was 3 for 8 in the series. Or excuse me, 1 for 12 in the series against the Nationals. And he takes down low. 3 for 8 in the series against the Mets last time out. Off the end of the bat, slowly up the first base line. Syndergaard will just take it to the bag, and the side is retired. So the Phillies go down 1-2-3. They're there half of the first. On to the second in Philadelphia. It's the Mets 1 and the Phillies nothing. Again for game 2. Vince Velasquez will make the start for the Phils. And then game 3 will be Wednesday at 7:05. Tickets can be purchased anytime by going to Phillies.com. Neil Walker will lead it off against Jared Eickhoff. And the first pitch is in there. It's 0-1. Walker hitting .227, 3 home runs, 8 runs batted in. Had a couple hits in the series against the Phils last time. Over to the right side. Ryan Howard feeds Jared Eickhoff. Put away.
Jared doesn't have a ton of movement on his fastball. He will cut it in on lefties a little bit at times, but when he goes down and away from lefties, he try and sink a little bit. Not a whole lot, but that's just enough to get the rollover here. You see Cameron Rupp's glove down and away. Just gets enough movement where Walker rolls that ball over to big piece.
So 1 out, and it brings Asdrubal Cabrera to the plate. Asdrubal Cabrera hitting .308, 7 for his last 18. Takes inside. Down the right field line, that'll be in for an extra base hit. It died in the corner, and Cabrera doesn't run all that well, but he's going to get to second base easily. A quicker runner probably would have had 3. So 1 out double, and Plawecki will come up.
That's a heater down the middle, Tom. Cabrera rifles it down the right field line, and you're right, it does get held up down there in that corner. Cabrera not as spry as he used to be.
Could still pick it at shortstop.
Woo. Manos de oro.
That means he's good.
Exactly. Hands of gold.
Here's Plawecki hitting .333, just 3 for 9. Darnell, who is normally the catcher for the Mets, is bruised up and is going to take tonight off. The Mets hope he'll be back tomorrow. Curveball, and it's 1 ball and 1 strike. If it's that good, can you throw it too much, you think? Or is it still dependent on how you locate the fastball?
It always depends on how you locate the fastball. Mets have some good hitters in that lineup. I know the numbers don't say it, but they'll start to get it going, and you get veteran hitters, they'll start to sit on it.
Tied him up inside. Franco looks the runner back to second. Good dig out by Ryan Howard. Ryan's had a couple of those plays in recent games, whether it be from Franco or Galvis from the left side, where he's had to dig him out.
Just need some soft hands here. Michael. That one a very easy one for the big piece. The short hops are easy. The longer ones are the tough ones.
One of the things that Pete and Larry Bowa have said about Franco is that he's talented, and everybody knows that. But sometimes on those particular plays, he's got to zip it over, not take as much time. Syndergaard takes outside. The Mets pitchers, their batting averages are quite, or their at-bats I should say, are quite low. You look at it and you're thinking, wait a minute, this is game 14 of the season. Why are they so low? A high fly ball to center field. Well, it's because they've had 2 games in American League, or 2 series in American League cities. So the DH has been utilized. No runs, 1 hit, and 1 man left in scoring position. Middle of the second, 1-0. Mets.
Tomorrow on the show, it's Takeover Tuesday.
That means you decide what we talk about.
Send your suggestions now to us on Twitter at BobOnPCN.
We will see you at 6 on the Comcast Network and breakfastonbroad.com.
Flyers are obviously a hot topic of conversation, and so is the memory of Ed Snider. That's a beautiful banner which is outside the Wells Fargo Center on the 95 side of the Wells Fargo Center. The players have talked glowingly about the life of Ed Snider, and so have all the civic leaders in the city of Philadelphia. But as they play game 3 across the street, he is still on the forefront of their minds. By the way, the Flyers and the Caps are tied at 1. There's about 11 minutes to play in the first period. Across the street. Here's Ryan Howard to lead it off. Howard had 1 hit in 8 at-bats against the Mets up at Citi Field. And he shoots that one through the hole on the left side. Quick hands. Leadoff single.
Love it.
Well, last year, the series between the 2 teams, it was dominated by the Mets at Citi Field. Here, the Mets won 6 of the 10 games, and you see the offensive numbers. They kind of dominated those as well. Their starting pitching, as good as it wasn't good here at Citi Field, but the problem was the Phillies starters weren't that great either.
I remember that series last year. I did not have it personally, but I remember watching the games, and they got out some big leads, and unfortunately the Phillies starters weren't able to hold those leads.
Cameron Rupp 7 for 27 so far this season. And it's low, 1-0. Trying to check his swing. He went around, and it's one ball, 1 strike. Today's Lucky McDonald's Phillies home run jackpot contestant is Patricia Gaffney of North Wildwood. Phillies hit a home run at today's ball game. Then Pat will win $100.
Good luck, Patricia.
Two balls and 1 strike.
Apparently the stretch doesn't affect Syndergaard's velocity.
No, and we probably make, I mean, all of us as baseball fans, we probably make too much of the velocity. We see relievers throw like this 100 miles an hour.
But still not many.
But still not many. We talked about the fastball slider combination. You know, Aroldis Chapman obviously throws 100 plus and then has a slider that's 92, 93. When Strasburg first came up with the Nationals, his slider would be 92, 93, and his fastball was 98, 99. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Cameron Rupp. Well, he got him out front. That's the slowest pitch he's thrown here tonight. Second strikeout for Syndergaard. Well, earlier today, the Phillies announced that Cedric Hunter was being sent down to Lehigh Valley, and David Lowe was being brought up. And Lowe is in the starting lineup today. You see his numbers down at Lehigh Valley in 6 games, 280, no homers and 2 runs batted in. He had a decent spring, and Pete said that he'll have the platoon going between Lowe and Goodell out in the outfield. David Lowe played 84 games last year for the Baltimore Orioles in the big leagues. Had 4 home runs, hit .201. He has played 312 games in his major league career. Back toward the middle, and Neil Walker bobbles it, flips to second, and they tag out Ryan Howard. And there are 2 outs.
Sure, Walker would like to have that play back again. No, I just didn't flip it to Cabrera and try and complete the double play. Lowe does run pretty good, but I'm still thinking they have a good shot there.
It probably would have been cleaner.
Would have been a lot cleaner. You see Walker charge this baseball. If he just does a quick flip to Cabrera, who's standing right there, give it to the man. See, Lowe's not even in your picture there yet. I'm thinking they complete that double play easily.
Well, if you wondered if Ryan Howard was out of the base paths, he has 3 feet to the left or right of where the infielder establishes the base path. As Cesar Hernandez fouls that one off to the left and out of play.
Also wondering why Cabrera went and tagged Ryan Howard.
Not sure why he did that either.
It's a force play.
Just to make sure, Ben.
You never know, Tom.
Runner goes, pitches low, throw to second is high, and Lowe has swiped second base. Well, he's already matched the team lead in stolen bases with that one.
Gets a very good jump here, does David Lowe. A throw a bit high by Plawecki, and David in there easily.
Cesar is hoping that he can find the same stroke that he had against the Mets. He was 6 for 12 in the series at Citi Field. It hasn't gone as well against the other teams that he has faced, particularly against the Nationals this past weekend.
91-mile-an-hour changeup there. You said we're probably making too much of the velocity of Noah Syndergaard. I don't know how you can't make it a big deal. I just looked up there again. 100.
Yeah.
You see triple digits. I remember Billy Wagner being here, and every time you had triple digits, the place would go nuts.
Well, think about Ken Giles or Jake Diekman.
Yeah.
But again, those guys were relievers. This is a starter, which is kind of odd. His average fastball velocity is 98.1, which is tops in the big leagues. And his average slider, according to Pitch Effects, is 92. That's also tops in the big leagues. Now, with all that said, the Phillies have guys that do like the fastball. I mean, that's at 101. The fact that he's able to throw his other pitches for strikes makes 101 even better. Phillies hitters, there's very few that you can get the fastball by, particularly the younger hitters. Ball 4, so that puts 2 on.
Nice at bat there by Caesar. Very nice at bat.
Peter Bourjos coming up, and Peter is clear-minded, Murph, as he gets ready for this at bat.
Yeah, you know what? We weren't so sure he would be after the collision at home plate yesterday that tied the game off the bat of Andres Blanco, the base hit, and the throw from Jason Worth coming in from left field. We knew it was going to be close, but then you see what Peter Bourjos in the collision at home plate. I talked to him today about it. I said, at first, you know, Tom, you said on the air that you thought perhaps he was even knocked out on that, the way he landed. He said, no, I was just trying to catch my breath. But he said, my cheek took the brunt of it, he said, for the most part. But he said, no cobwebs. He was feeling fine, and none of the concussion symptoms that you might think that would come with a hit like that.
Well, that one's hit out towards center field, but Cespedes will track it down. The side is retired, so no runs, 1 hit, 2 men left. It's Hatfield Dollar Dog Night here at Citizens Bank Park. It is always a favorite. Time now for the Jeep Stump the Fans trivia question. Log on to Phillies.com. Go to the fan section for all the information, and please submit your answer on the subject line. All right, Ben, here's the question. Who was the last pitcher before Bartolo Colon in 2015 to win more than 10 games versus the National League East? Answer will be revealed in just a little bit. Curtis Granderson will lead it off. He grounded out his only time up, but he takes just a bit high, and it's 1-0.
Tom Seaver could be an answer.
Tom Seaver could be an answer, yeah. You know what? I feel bad. No, he could not. Well, he could be, but it's not him.
Oh, you're swell.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be a Met, by the way.
Doesn't have to be a
No,
Met.
it's anybody.
Okay.
Up high again, 3-0. And ball 4. He walks about 4 pitches. And that'll bring David Wright to the plate, who homered his first time up the opposite way. Oh, we got visitors with a capital V. The Fanatic and Smiley have ventured into the booth. It is a Hatfield Dollar Dog Night here at Citizens Bank Park. First of all, Fanatic, on behalf of Ben and everybody else, we want to wish you a belated happy birthday.
Very belated.
It was an outstanding day. Smiley, you missed it. It was fantastic yesterday. And we appreciate the dogs. Smiley's busy, one of his busiest nights of the year. It's Hatfield Dollar Dog Nights. He'll be firing them off with the cannon later on as David Wright hits one out towards center. I don't think Odubel Herrera knows where it is. Now he finds it and makes the catch. Give that man a hot dog, Fanatic, for making that grab. Hey, Fanatic, look, watch the monitor. We got some video of you earlier. What? Oh.
It's easier if you use the glove.
Smiley, you need some help there, buddy.
Hey, Tom, remember you asked me earlier what kind of deodorant you should get?
Yep.
Might want to share it with our friend here.
Come on, Smiley, let him fly, let him fly. Oh, a tip pass. Fanatic, you just threw it to a Mets fan. Yeah, equal opportunity hot dogs.
Everybody loves hot dogs, Tom.
Well, as we said, it's always a favorite night here at the ballpark, the Hatfield Dollar Dog Nights. We always love seeing Smiley and the Fanatic, such good friends, hanging out together.
That's right. You bring any mustard?
He just brought the hot dogs, but everything else, the condiments, you're on your own with the condiments. It's only his second year, Fanatic. He just doesn't understand.
Oh, that's perfect.
That would have been great if there was mustard flying out of there.
That's excellent. Do they have mustard in the Galapagos Islands?
I don't know. I'm just surprised he was able to say it, to be honest with you, Fanatic. Pretty good seats, huh? Smile, Fanatic. There's people taking photos of you down there. Smiley, come on in here. They want to get. All right, well. Oh, and to Conforto. Swing and a miss. He got him. 2 outs. And that was a good pitch. All right, guys. Thank you for coming up. We appreciate it.
Thank
Smiley,
you guys
always
very
good to
much.
see you, buddy.
Very much. Thank you. Smiley, thank you.
This is not going to hold Ben over enough, these two.
I think we'll be okay.
Yeah.
I just had supper a few minutes ago.
Well, 2 away, and here is Cespedes. By the way, how about that fly ball that Wright hit? I didn't think Herrera had any idea where it was.
I didn't think it was ever going to come down.
There's a slider for a strike. It's 0-1. And then he put his arms out as if he was saying, I have no idea where this ball is.
And I don't think he was deking Curtis Granderson.
No.
It's got to be such an uneasy feeling if you're an outfielder to lose it and then try and find it again.
Toyota Major League Scoreboard down at Marlins Park. The Marlins are on top 3-0 over the Nationals. Marcelo Zuna, a 2-run single. Must be back in the good graces.
Must be.
Jose Fernandez on the mound for Miami. Tanner Roark pitching for Washington. Nationals lead the Phillies and the Mets by 4 games in the National League East. Out front, and a pop-up on the infield to the right side. Ryan Howard is under it, and the side is retired. No runs, no hits, and 1 man left over at first. Middle of the 3rd, Phils trail the Mets 1-0. Is brought to you by McDonald's. Come into McDonald's for an Egg McMuffin and medium iced coffee for $3.49. By Nissan. Choose Nissan today for great offers on our most exciting lineup ever. Shop ChooseNissan.com. And by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV.
I should get the baby one of those.
Well, those are the Ho-Daico drummers performing for the start of the ball game. Larry Anderson really enjoyed them. In fact, he had
sure
dinner
did.
in the radio booth while it was going on.
Big fan.
Bottom of the 3rd, 1-0. That's on top. And Jerad Eickhoff will lead it off. Eickhoff is 1 for 4 so far. And he takes a strike at the knees. It's 0-1. Jerad, for most of his high school career, he barely even pitched. He was a third baseman. A lanky third baseman at 6'3", 175 pounds. In fact, his junior year in high school, he threw only 6 innings, played third base all the time. Senior year in high school, they pitched him a little bit more. He threw 40 innings his senior year. That's not a lot for a potential major league pitcher. Strikes out, and that's the 3rd strikeout for Syndergaard. And 1 away, and Freddie Galvis is coming up.
I think Jared made the right choice.
Galvis fly to center is only time up. Freddie takes a breaking ball, and it's 0-1. Freddie had switched to a 35-32 bat that he had been utilizing for the last few games. In fact, it's the same bat he used last year, that weight and the length. He lines that one out toward left center field. Cespedes got a really good jump, but it's over his head and going to the wall. And Galvis is on his way to second, and he is there standing with a one-out double. Hit that ball well.
But could he have swung any easier?
Well, that's part of why he decided to use the heavier bat.
This swing here, much like the same pitch he got last night off yesterday afternoon against Jonathan Papelbon, up out over the plate. Cespedes thought he had a beat on this. This ball just kept carrying, had a lot of backspin. You ain't catching that one. Good looking swing there by Freddie.
Well, the thought is using a heavier bat, it limits your over swinging, so you're swinging a little easier, which is what he did right there.
And it forces you to use your hands.
And he did say he used it all of yesterday except for the Papelbon at bat when he decided to go to a lighter bat. He just felt more comfortable with it swinging against Papelbon. Odubel Herrera takes in the dirt. Nice job by Plawecki, and it's 1 ball and no strikes. Odubel struck out his first time up. There goes Galvis. Pitch is taken low. Throw to third is not in time. Feet first slide. Excellent jump. Right was shaded off the bag a little bit. First stolen base of the year for Freddie Galvis. But if you're going to go, you better make it.
You better make it, is right, but this is a very good slide here by Freddie. We've seen a lot of base runners have a tendency to slide past the bag. He gets his foot in and pops up. That is textbook slide into third base right there.
Oh, now the pressure's on the catcher if he throws any sliders here in the dirt. Odubel ahead, 2 balls and no strikes. And he hits it off his hands into left field. A base hit. A run will score. It'll be an RBI single. And the Phillies have tied this baby up at 1. Well, there you go. One guy hit it to the gap in left center. The other guy hit it right to the hole at shortstop. And you got a run for the Phils.
Location is everything. A knock is a knock is a knock. It's 99 in on his hands. Odubel gets enough of it, shoots it in the outfield, and Freddie scores.
Let's see what Odubel does here with Franco up. Odubel's only stolen 1 base.
I'd love to see that, though, out of Freddie. You have a ball club, and I mean, it's out there. The Phillies are having a tough time scoring runs right now. But any fashion you can manufacture a run like that, you have to try and take those chances. I love that out of Freddie.
Back toward shortstop, and Cabrera's got it. Flips to second for 1. And it's a double play. 6-4-3. Phils do get a run, though, on the RBI single by Odubel Herrera. We have played 3 on to the 4th. It's a 1-1 game. You by Toyota. Let's go places. Let's go Phillies. Carlos has the night off. Phillies are tied at 1 as we go to the top of the 4th inning. Jerad Eickhoff will face Lucas Duda, Neil Walker, and Asdrubal Cabrera. Duda flied out to right field his only time up. He's 0 for 1. Pitch high, 1 ball, no strikes. Talked before about Eickhoff and how he was a third baseman when he was in high school. It wasn't until the summer before he went to college that he really settled into being a pitcher. As that one's hit in the air to shallow center. Odubel Herrera comes running in. Says he has it, we believe, and makes the catch, 1 away. And it was in junior college that he became primarily a pitcher, drafted by the Rangers. And when he was drafted by the Rangers, we said he was 6'3", about 180 pounds. Now he's 6'4", about 245. It was a single-A pitching coach, Storm Davis, who pitched in the big leagues for a number of years. In fact, he won 113 games, had 5 years of double-digit victories. It was a single-A pitching coach that told him that when you get to the big leagues, you're probably going to need to be anywhere between 230 and 245 to fill out your frame, because he had gotten bigger and he was gradually getting to that level. On the outside corner, it was fastball, changeup, and sometimes curveball, but it was there that he started to refine the curveball a little bit more, and really it's his best pitch, following the location of the fastball. Out to right field, Peter Borges will wait for the sinker, and he puts it away for the second out. And Cabrera's coming up. What position did you play in basketball, Ben? Were you a center or were you a forward? Or?
I was a shooting guard.
All right, so was Eickhoff when he was in high school. Grew up in Indiana, had to play basketball.
Yeah.
And because of his height, he was a mismatch as a shooting guard.
Well, yeah. Did he play for Normandale?
He did not play for Normandale. Nope. He did not run the picket fence. But if he was asked to make a shot at the end, he would make it. Cabrera doubled his first time up. Breaking ball. It's 0-1.
I loved that 1-0 changeup he threw Neil Walker. 84 miles an hour, actually doubled it up. Neil still hit it okay to right field, but the speed is what got him.
Top of the hour here at Philadelphia, according to Ben's watch. Inside, 2-1 to Asdrubal Cabrera. To the right side, backhanded by Cesar Hernandez, and an easy inning for Jerad Eickhoff. Nice job by Eickhoff after allowing the lead, the home run in the first inning. He's only allowed a couple of base runner sits. We'll head to the bottom of the 4th. We'll get a cheesesteak and we'll come back for the Phils to hit. Add a little color. Avery Neon shipping labels ensure all your shipping messages get noticed. Perfect for any priority message. And WB Mason delivers the same day when you order by 11:30. Local service, personalized. Who but WB Mason? Well, out at Ashburn Alley, pretty good crowd rumbling around. On a Hatfield Dollar Dog Night, there's some other things that you can grab out there. Well, there's the governor of New Jersey, Chris Christie, who is getting a chance to enjoy tonight's ball game. I believe that's his son, Andrew, who is sitting next to him. Andrew is a catcher on the Princeton University baseball team. I guess he's not campaigning for president, so he might as well come and watch a baseball game.
Beautiful night for it.
Ryan Howard leads it off, and Howard takes a strike. It's 0-1.
I believe that was a curveball, Tom.
83 miles an hour, 10-mile-an-hour difference to the slider. Howard singled his first time up. He shot one through the hole, which is where Asdrubal Cabrera is actually playing now. Oh, no balls at 2 strikes to Howard. Swing and a miss. He went after a high heater. And 4 strikeouts for Syndergaard. Well, tomorrow in celebration of Vince Velasquez's 16 amazing strikeout performance last start, special offer from the Phils. $16 tickets as the Phils take on the New York Mets. Just go to Phillies.com/Vince offer to order. Be nice to see him pitch here tomorrow night against Logan Verrett. Cameron Rupp takes strike 1. It's 0-1. Off the end of the bat. Plawecki says he has it. It's a fair ball. 2 outs. Put up goes 2-3.
Wise choice there by Plawecki just to go out and get that ball. If that ball lands again, I think it would have enough English on it to go in the foul territory, knowing that Cameron isn't the fleetest of foot. Went out and got on the big hop and threw him out at first.
Well, here's David Lowe, who reached on a fielder's choice his first time up. Murph, we mentioned he had himself a heck of a spring. We thought for a chance, there was a chance he was going to make the club, and I think if the Phillies kept 5 outfielders, he probably would have made the club.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I talked to him a little bit about that today, because it had to be difficult for him, getting the news pretty much at the very end of spring training that he was going to head down to AAA and start the season at the Lehigh Valley. He said, yeah, it was. He said, but he just had to go down there and keep his head on straight. He said he certainly kept an eye on what was happening with the big club. But the most interesting part of the conversation I had with David Lowe was that he was talking about coming into spring training and about what he did a little bit differently. He said his entire career, he's always been a very aggressive hitter, a guy that swings at a lot of pitches. He decided coming into spring training with the Phillies, he was going to change that approach and try to be much more patient. It paid off for him. He had 10 walks in spring training, and he also batted around 280 as well. He thinks it makes him a better hitter. Guys, it's a lot of what we were talking about with Odubel Herrera. If you're going to draw those walks, all of a sudden that batting average is going to start to creep up as well, and things are going to be good. So that's the approach he's going to take while being here as well.
Well, what a play by David Wright. Man, oh man. I mean, you got to make a big time play when you have the speed of David Lowe, but that ball took an odd hop off the mound. Wright was already past it. He flagged it down to the barrhead and flipped over to first. This is as good a defensive play as you're going to find a third baseman make. Wow. 5-3 in the putout, and the Phillies go down 1-2-3. Top of the 5th inning, 1-1 ball game. It'll be Plawecki, Syndergaard, and Curtis Granderson for the Mets against Jerad Eickhoff. That one's hit out toward left center field. David Lowe got a good jump on it, and he makes the catch. Cedric Hunter was a good outfielder. Lowe is probably a hair better, and you just saw it right there. He's a center fielder by trade, and he was able to get an excellent jump on that.
Was a good read there, and I think Plawecki just gets it off the end just enough. I think Odubel would have gotten there, but chose to let David catch it.
Breaking ball, and it's 0-2 to Syndergaard. And he goes after a breaking ball there, and he is struck out. 2 away. It's now time for our Citizens Bank minor league report. Get you caught up on what's going on down on the farm. Well, Zach Eflin, after his strong performances last time out, was named the National League Pitcher of the Week. And then Jorge Alfaro, who's had a big week, 10 RBIs for the Reading Titans, the Eastern League Player of the Week. Citizens Bank, the next time you have a question about money, don't keep it to yourself. Ask a citizen. Granderson takes strike 1. Strike 2. Greg Gibson has one of the louder ball strike calls in the league, and right now Jerad Eickhoff's giving him some good practice. Look out. There's Greg. I think we only saw him once last year. Ed Hickox at first. You get in trouble, Ben. You call Ed Hickox. He's a detective. Mike Estabrooks at second. Dana Dubuque around at third. Checked his swing. Did he? No, he didn't, according to Dana Dubuque. 4th strikeout for Jerad Eickhoff. Side is retired in order. That's 9 in a row retired by the Phillies right-hander. We'll go to the bottom of the 5th in a 1-1 game. All right, Ben, here we go. Who's the last pitcher before Bartolo Colon in 2015 to win more than 10 games versus the National League East? And I told you the one hint, it wasn't Tom Seaver. In one of our breaks, I said it wasn't a Met.
Former Met?
Not a former Met, no.
Oh.
I will tell you that he was traded to the Phillies by a current Met, or a current Met was included in the deal.
I was going to say Jonathan Neese, but
Jonathan Neese would be incorrect. Cesar Hernandez takes low. Roy Halladay, 14 wins in 2010. Log back on to Phillies.com to find out if you're the winner of a Phillies prize pack.
Yeah, they're two different pitchers there.
They sure are. Out to left field, Michael Conforto is there. And one away. And here's Peter Borges. At the knees with that 99-mile-an-hour heater. And it's 0-1. Galapagos gang is in the house, Ben, as they normally are. Still reeling after yesterday's Superstars visit.
How does Iggy do that?
I don't know.
There's really nothing Iggy can't do.
Feel bad for the other two. I mean, just standing around like that's not gonna win you over.
There we go. A little more action.
Said the Sea Lion. Calvin, well, they're just gonna leave it Iggy by himself. Fastball hit back to the screen. There remains 1 ball and 2 strikes.
Sid the Sea Lion looks more like a chocolate lab.
He does kind of look like a chocolate lab. Swing and a miss, and Borges has struck out. 5 strikeouts for Syndergaard, so he has 1 in each inning so far as Jared Eichhoff's coming up. Coming into this ballgame, Syndergaard had 21 strikeouts in 13 innings of work, as we told you before. That's tied for the best start for a Mets pitcher to begin a season. That's just nasty right there.
He had thrown Peter a pitch before that at 95 and had slider action on it. Is that possible?
Eichhoff fouls the fastball. It's 0-1. Well,
you're a superhero.
Two starts that we just mentioned, 21 strikeouts. So he tied Pedro Martinez, who back in 05 did that, 21 strikeouts, and Doc Gooden, who had 21 strikeouts through 2 starts back in 1991. Out to left field. Conforto is under it, makes the catch. That one was down toward the label by Jared Eichhoff. He's going to walk back to the dugout, and maybe it'll creep into his head that he might have just missed one. Independence Blue Cross Philly of the Week is introducing himself to Philadelphia in striking style. Thursday afternoon versus the Padres was a 113-pitch performance of domination by Vince Velasquez. His first complete game shutout consisted of 80% first pitch strikes, while retiring 22 of the final 23 batters he faced. His fastball was humming all game as he fanned 16 batters, the most by a Philly since Cliff Lee in 2011. The 23-year-old has a 15-inning scoreless streak in his first 2 starts. And his stinginess is brought to you by Independence Blue Cross. Live fearless. Well, we mentioned that Smiley and the Fanatic will be shooting hot dogs out at some point tonight. Well, here we go. Look at that technique. I mean, that is some CO2 that's firing those dogs. Take you about an hour to unwrap them. Super slow-mo at its best. David Wright leads it off, and he takes a breaking ball outside. It's 1-0. Wright homered. He's accounted for the only run for the Mets. That was back in the first, a solo shot. David Wright does not have Ben Davis against Colorado Rocky numbers at Coors Field, but he's hit 21 home runs here at Citizens Bank Park. Fastball. Pretty close.
Just hearing the stories that you've talked about with David Wright, and you know, he accounted for the 1 run, and obviously don't want him to hurt the Phillies, but I do root for the good guys, and the stories that you've told me about David, it's really refreshing to hear about a star athlete being so generous and nice.
He's one of the best guys that you'll ever come across in the game of baseball, either now or even, you know, then. Hits that one sharply. Diving stop by Franco to his feet. Slings it across the diamond in time. 1 away.
Hello.
Now that is the way you fire from one end of the diamond to the other.
Gets up to his feet and throws this ball with some conviction. Gets up and slings it across. Letter high for the big piece at first. That ball actually got behind him before he started to extend his glove hand. See that ball behind him, gets to his feet quickly, throws a strike over to first base.
Just getting better and better as a defensive third baseman. So 1 away. Conforto's coming up. He's walked and struck out, and he hits one sharply foul down the right field line. Conforto batting leadoff. Terry Collins put him into the leadoff spot a couple days ago and said he probably won't keep him there against left-handers. He said he will eventually, but not in the not in the near future. But he's done a heck of a job since being put in there. He has 5 hits in his last 12 at bats as he takes inside. He is one of 3 players in the history of Little League Baseball and Major League Baseball to play in the Little League World Series in Williamsport and in the Major League World Series, which he did last year. It's a great story that when Conforto was in high school, the high school field was adjacent to the Little League field, and he would hit these home runs in batting practice, and his high school coach had to put players on the Little League field because he had to protect the Little Leaguers because he kept hitting balls onto the field. Kind of like you at Malvern Prep.
We didn't have any fences.
Well, into the farm.
There we go.
Here's the 2-2 pitch. Breaking ball, pulled foul.
I really do like his approach, though. You know, again, they haven't played the shift in the infield, but he'll use the whole field. Really, the only knock on him is the fastball's in. You know, if you have enough velocity where you can get balls in, not as quick to those.
Curveball waved at it, missed. Now there are 2 outs. That's 5 strikeouts for Eickhoff. MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, delivers everything you have come to expect and more. Watch every out-of-market game live in HD on over 400 supported devices. It includes a free subscription to At-Bat Premium, the #1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV for details. So now Cespedes is 0 for 2. That's a slider. Slider again. A little different one, though. Not as much depth. Opposite way, and that's a base hit for Cespedes going to the corner. Cespedes will cruise to second base. He's thinking 3 now. He turns it on, rounding the bag. He'll head to third, and he'll get there. It's a 2-out triple. Ball's just not popping out of the corner the way the outfielders, and it's just both teams, the away team and the Phillies, the way the outfielders are thinking.
Not a very good 0-2 pitch here by Jerad Eickhoff. Wants to climb the ladder, but doesn't get it up there high enough. And Peter Bourjos just had a really long way to run.
Long way. So Cespedes is at third base. That's his first triple, and here's Duda. So that's what that was, though, Ben. Just a poorly located fastball.
It was. First of all, it was middle, but it was supposed to be up. And
which is where you're going to go, Cespedes.
You can. He will chase up there, but you just have to make sure you get it up high enough. And that's just not nearly up there high enough, because he does have the ability to get on top. That's why he swings at it so often, because he has had success. But if you don't go high enough.
0-1 to Duda, who's 0 for 2. Got that ball backed up on the outside part of the plate.
Eickhoff, with the 23 batters he's faced tonight, just 14 first pitch strikes. He has been very good, but you would think that number would be higher than that.
One ball and 2 strikes to Duda. Fastball hit toward left field, low on the run, and dives, and it's off his glove, and it goes into foul territory. A run will score, and Duda will pull into second with an RBI opposite field double, and it's 2-1. Mets on top. It's a heck of an effort. Had to go a long way. Boy, he threw some really good hooks to Duda, and he came back with a fastball.
Supposed to be up again, and this ball up out over the plate. Lowe gets there, just not able to secure it. And he had a long way to go, but you cannot fault him for the effort,
No.
Tom.
He actually thought he had it, it looked like.
He almost got up kind of in disbelief.
So Duda gets the RBI. That's his 6th of the year, 2nd double of the season. And now Neil Walker, who is 0 for 2. He's grounded out and lined out. Boy, he's had such a good breaking pitch. I just wonder if he could have just thrown another breaking ball to both Cespedes and to Duda.
All part of the maturation process for Jerad Eickhoff and Cameron Rupp, for that matter.
That'll be fouled on the left field line as it slices out of play, and it's 0-2.
You surprised, Tom, that the Mets didn't be more aggressive in signing Daniel Murphy back?
Yes, I was surprised by that, particularly since they did have a surplus where they were able to trade a pitcher for an infielder, and they signed Cabrera to play shortstop. But yes, I was.
I was very surprised.
They are going to have to spend some money on some pitchers, though, coming up, so that could be part of it. There's the 0-2 pitch to Walker. Swing and a miss. He got him. Threw him a good curve. 6 strikeouts for Eickhoff. But the Mets retake the lead on the RBI double by Lucas Duda. We'll head to the middle of the 6th. It's 2-1 New York. Brought to you by Chevrolet. Visit your local dealer at ChevyDealer.com. By T-Mobile. Get Major League coverage. T-Mobile has doubled its 4G LTE since 2015. And by your Delaware Valley Honda dealers. Hurry to your local Del Val Honda dealer or visit DelValHondaDealers.com. Well, I guess we know what the Fanatic got for his birthday yesterday. Try to tell everybody to be quiet. I'm not really sure why, unless he doesn't want anybody to know that he put the doll there. I don't know.
You're stealing signs from the Mets dugout.
Maybe. Come on, Ben. Think along with the Fanatic. See if you can figure it out.
I can never figure out what that big green thing is doing.
Freddie Galvis, who doubled and scored the run for the Phils his last time up. Takes down to start this at bat. 1 ball, no strikes. This is just the 57th pitch that Noah Syndergaard has thrown tonight. Both of these pitchers have thrown exceptionally well in this ball game.
This is the 19th batter faced for Noah Syndergaard. 14 first pitch strikes for Noah.
Jared Eichhoff's allowed 2 runs. Syndergaard 23 years old. Eichhoff 25 years old. These guys are going to most likely be battling for quite some time against each other. Here's the 2-2 pitch to Galvis. Fouls it at the plate. Got him. Threw him a breaking ball. 6 strikeouts now for Syndergaard. Coming up after our Phillies coverage, get to know flamethrower Vince Velasquez. Plus, Jim Salisbury talks to Matt Klentak and Andy McPhail about the next generation of young stars. Stay tuned for the season premiere of Phillies Clubhouse right here on TCN. Some of those stars are off to good starts down in the minor leagues. Offensively, Alfaro has played well. And he's not alone. Outside, 1 ball and 1 strike.
You just want to see them continuing to get better day by day. If it's a small thing, it's something major they need to work on. That's why your minor league coaches are so pivotal in getting these players to be able to play up here every day.
Another guy that's off to a very good start in Lehigh Valley is Cam Perkins, who is 8 for 20 with a double, 2 triples, a home run, and 5 RBIs. Todd Zolecki from Phillies.com asked Pete Mackanin today, if anybody has given any thought to having Cam Perkins be the next guy up. Cam last year played 100 games for Reading, hit .252 at 11 home runs. And Pete said last year his name was brought up, but his name hasn't been brought up this year. Cam's a college player out of Purdue, who the Phillies took in the 6th round in 2012. One ball, 2 strikes to Odubel. Outside, 2-2. Went upstairs. It's 7 strikeouts as Herrera strikes out for the 2nd time. And there are 2 outs.
It's just one of those sliders that doesn't break. Like he was set up, wanted that ball down and in. Had it 92 miles an hour. He is tough, and you want to be aggressive against someone like this because you don't want to get in a hole because he has so many weapons to put you away with.
One to Franco.
Only problem with that when the pitcher is going well is this right here. 68 pitches.
Yeah, Pete was talking before the ball game. He said, listen, if we can keep it close late in the game, he said, if we're leading, great, but if we can keep within reach late in the game against somebody like Syndergaard, that's a big deal. I don't know if he thought that he would have just 69 pitches with 2 outs here in the 6th.
Because I would definitely say that he is settled in right now.
Yes, he has.
And using a lot more off-speed pitches.
Back toward the middle, and a base hit for Franco.
Funny to say that another off-speed pitch, despite being 93 miles an hour. It's a slider. That one more of a lateral movement, but Mike Kell, nice job of staying on that pitch, not trying to pull it. Gets enough of it to shoot at center.
Group tickets are available for groups of 25 or more at Citizens Bank Park. Take advantage of special group opportunities, including discounts, theme nights, party areas, plenty of benefits and special options. There's also special fundraising opportunities. For more information, go to Phillies.com/group tickets. Howard is 1 for 2.
Ryan not pleased with Greg Gibson's call on that pitch.
Trying to check his swing. The ball gets away. He didn't go according to the third base umpire. Franco will stop at second base. A wild pitch.
Slider, Plawecki not able to get that right kneecap down. The catchers, you want to go down, you want to block, you have to get both knees on the ground at the same time.
Try to check again. Did he go? No again, says the third base umpire. Those are awfully close.
They are. See Ryan not even going with any type of leg kick, stride, not a whole lot of hand movement. It's going to let Noah Syndergaard provide the power.
Well, that one was up a little bit more than the other two.
Takes some kind of strong man to not be able to go on those check swings. He grabbed one of his sticks out of the. Grabbed one of his bats out of the bat rack the other day, and it is a big piece of lumber.
Strong man. Lays off. It's 3-2. Well, we've gotten to the bottom of it. That is a Fanatic doll that is dressed in a Mets uniform, and the Fanatic was trying to conceal the Mets colors. Now we got it. I think he cut the hat off, actually.
As well he should.
Yeah. 3 balls, 2 strikes to Howard. Outside, ball 4.
Tom, if I throw 101 miles an hour, I'm going to take my chances there and challenge Ryan Howard.
Yeah, I actually think he's thrown, I mean, this is my opinion, you know better than I do. I think he's thrown too many sliders or changeups. I think you just keep pumping fastballs.
Shows you the respect, though, that Noah Syndergaard has for Ryan Howard, but I think, Dan Werner, that would frustrate me.
We mentioned his pitch count was low coming in. It's still kind of low, but he's thrown 22 in this inning. Cameron Rupp is up with runners on first and second. 2 outs here in the bottom of the 6th, and a pitch in the dirt, 1-0. .100 on the fastball. 1 ball, 1 strike. Got to focus if you're an umpire too at this point. That was a slider at 95.
Maybe he's just trying to cut that fastball
well, that's the
a
other
little
thing.
bit.
Yeah, maybe because it doesn't have the same kind of action.
He's thrown some that have had depth on them and more tilt. That one a little bit more lateral to Cameron Rupp, but still 95.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Fastball right down the chute. A called strike 3. He strikes out the side. The Phillies get a couple of base runners. 8 strikeouts for Syndergaard. We've completed 6, and the Mets lead it 2-1 as we go to the 7th. Time now for your Delaware Valley Honda dealers game summary. The Phillies trail the Mets 2-1. David Wright, a solo home run, his 21st here at the ballpark. Got it started for New York, but Odubel Herrera's RBI single tied it. And then a run in the top of the 6th inning off the bat of Lucas Duda has given the Mets the lead. So now we go to the top of the 7th. Jared Eickhoff, who's been very good tonight, is about to throw his 80th pitch of the evening against Asdrubal Cabrera. Curveball that floats outside. Cabrera is 1 for 2. He's doubled and grounded out. Hits one toward the hole, and it's past Cesar Hernandez. So a leadoff single. Phillies fans, next time you want to grab Phillies seats, get the StubHub app. Not only will you find seats you'll love whenever you want, you can find the best seat for the buck when you sort by best value. We take the price and location of seats and show you which tickets at StubHub give you the best deal. So get the StubHub app today. Surprised he's not bunting here.
No, it's Syndergaard's on deck.
Yeah, it's true. The pitcher's on deck.
You know he's not coming out of the ball game.
Nope. Phillies might get bullpen action here in the top of the 7th inning. Yeah, Elvis Araujo is going to start warming up. Runner goes. Pitch is hit foul. 2-1.
Boy, is this a good time for a double play.
Got him. Boy, he has thrown a boatload of breaking pitches tonight. He has 7 strikeouts. That was number 7.
Boatload is right.
Every time the Phillies pitchers retire, the opposition 1-2-3. Comcast will make a contribution to Phillies charities. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. So now Syndergaard, he has struck out and fly to center field.
That is one thing I cannot get myself to say. You can definitely help me with it. It's
okay.
Flied out instead of flew out.
Flied out. I learned that when I was first doing minor league games. I would say flew out all the time. 1 ball and no strikes. And it was the mom of one of our employees in the ticket office, Scott Gross, who was an excellent employee. We had some great people in the ticket office then. His mom, I believe she may have been an English teacher, who told me one day that I was saying it incorrectly, that it was flied out and not flew out.
Great grab by a fan in the suite.
Excellent catch.
Is that Marge's suite? I believe it may have been. So she corrected you and you made the adjustments.
Yeah, it took some time. 2-1. Further and farther is the other one. Farther being distance. Correct.
That one I did know.
She helped me with that one. Us broadcasters, we can butcher the English language with the best of them. Two balls, one strike. Keeping an eye on Cabrera over there at first base.
Not as close as
really not as close, but you know every hitter reacts that way, particularly somebody who's not used to hitting.
You have a guy that's leaning out over the plate, wanting to get the bunt down. Like you said, not accustomed to being at the dish.
Well, he just walked him. That may cost him the outing too. Let's see what Bob McClure and Pete Mackanin decide to do. Now they're going to have a visit first before they do anything. With Granderson coming up, McClure will head out. Clock out in left center field begins at 30 seconds. Hector Neris and Araujo now warming up. So now Araujo is going to be up for Conforto if it happens to get to that point, and Neris is up for David Wright. Well, that's a tough one though, to walk the pitcher. He's pitched so well. His command has been so good tonight.
And after you got a strike on Syndergaard, you squaring around, you know he's bunting.
Third walk, by the way, issued by Eickhoff. Let's see if he can get out of it here with runners on first and second and one man down. Guy that runs pretty well still in Granderson.
When in doubt,
just go back to it. One and two.
Can you describe this as a bevy of breaking balls, Tom?
I would say a buffet. He got him. He could not hold up. He threw one breaking pitch after another. 8 strikeouts for Eickhoff. There are 2 outs.
Cannot hold up, Curtis Granderson, and you have an ugly swing like that. That means you are just not picking up any kind of rotation. And I would love to see Jerad Eickhoff get out of this situation right here. Keep this ball game at 1 run.
95 pitches for Eickhoff. David Wright is 1 for 3. The home run his first time up. He's fly to center. He's also grounded out to third. Phils trail at 2-1. Tried a slider, but that one ran high. This time it did not. Let's see which pattern Cameron Rupp goes to here. 2 sliders and a curve. The count is 1 ball and 2 strikes.
If there was ever a time to dot a fastball in, this would be it. But I don't think he has that confidence in his fastball right now.
Well, they're going to set up outside. Another breaking pitch. This time right lays off. And now it's 2-2. Now the thought is you'd have to go with a fastball, or would you change it up and maybe go with a slider?
I just don't think he has that confidence in his fastball right now. You know, the 3 walks. Saw him walk Granderson early in the game on 4 pitches. Just walked Noah Syndergaard, the pitcher, who he knew was bunting. That might be a visit. Just bring it. No sign here.
Which they have done quite often. 2-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. He got him. Went back to the curveball one more time. 9 strikeouts for Jerad Eickhoff. No runs, 1 hit, 2 men left. He's been outstanding here tonight. We'll stretch at Citizens Bank Park. The Phils looking for a little offense to support their young right-hander. They trail it 2-1. One-run deficit for the Phils as we head to the bottom of the 7th inning. I was worried about Marshall, whether he was going to get to the Comcast Network studios earlier today, but it sounds like he made it just fine. It's time now for our Precision Plays of the Game, brought to you by GMC. How about strikeouts, Ben? How do you feel about them?
Well, if you like strikeouts, this is the ball game to attend. A lot of breaking balls by Jerad Eickhoff, a lot of fire by Noah Syndergaard, and these two really have put together an exhibition of strikeouts, and they are your GMC Precision Plays of the game.
Well, they've combined for 17 strikeouts. Syndergaard begins the bottom of the 7th inning with 8. Eickhoff has 9 strikeouts. You know, the trade of Cole Hamels was difficult for anybody because he was the ace of the Phillies staff. Phillies got a boatload of players back in return from Texas. It's been less than a year, but I don't know how you can't enjoy watching Jerad Eickhoff pitch. Just the determination. I mean, he's not overpowering at all, but he just gets out there and he pitches. I mean, that's a heck of a line right there. Here's David Lowe to lead it off. And he gets a changeup and he waves at it. 0-1. It'll be Lowe, Hernandez, and Peter Bourjos. Oh, 2. That's 92, Ben, but give me a little perspective from a hitter standpoint when you have a guy that throws as hard as Syndergaard does. I mean, as far as starting early, you know, trying to drop the bat head through. I mean, what's your thought process, and how different is it from a normal pitcher?
If you're gearing up for 100, you just have to really trust your hands. No matter how slow or fast you think your bat is, you just have to trust your hands. The problem with Syndergaard tonight is, yes, he's throwing that hard, but he's locating. He really is locating with that fastball. But there's a huge difference. I will tell you, Tom, there's a huge difference between 92 and 100. A huge difference. And that 8 miles an hour is really going to affect your timing.
Henderson's the right-hander, Blevins the lefty. See, I think this is a good idea what Cesar just did. Now he may not bunt, but why not? Although Cesar is a good fastball hitter, he's not the kind of not a home run hitter. He only had one last year. He's gotten 370 plate appearances since his last one. 1 ball, 1 strike. 2-1. Two and 2. That got a piece of Greg Gibson. Saw Henderson when the Phillies and the Mets faced each other at Citi Field. He was throwing well. Blevins has been excellent this year.
Kind of surprised to even have anybody up right now. He's just at 90 pitches.
Opposite way, a base hit for Cesar. He has a walk and a single, and with one man down, Borges is coming up. StubHub Mother's Appreciation Day is Sunday, May 1st. It's a special 2:35 start. It's all part of the Indians series, Phillies Infinity Scarf, free to all women 15 and older. So that's the only series the Phillies will have when they come off this next road trip, which will be in Milwaukee and then Washington. They play the Indians, and then it's off to the road again. Peter Borges, and he watches the first throw go over to first base. Good job by Duda to track that one. Emmanuel Burris is out in the on-deck circle.
If you're Cesar Hernandez here, you have to try and get something in motion, either via steal, hit and run, something. Put some pressure on the defense here. Get a runner in scoring position.
And Borges bunts in the air. Right has it. 2 away. Can't fault the idea. The execution wasn't what Peter wanted. And now Emmanuel Burris will pitch it.
It's a good idea, but trying to deaden 98 to 100 is tough.
Particularly when it's up like
Especially when it's up.
So Eichhoff's night is done. 7 innings. He was excellent. He allowed just the 2 runs. So now Burris will hit in the pitcher's spot. David Hernandez will come out of the bullpen in the top of the 8th inning.
Here comes the whammy. Maybe the Fanatic has a date.
He could.
trying to get something going here, Tom.
He's waiting. Runner goes, pitches, slap to third. David Wright is up with it. Side is retired. No runs, a 1 hit, and 1 man left. We've completed 7. We'll go to the 8th. The Phils will dip into the bullpen when we return to Citizens Bank Park. Lottery. Play the new instant game. Escape from Margaritaville. Players must be 18 or older. Please play responsibly. Buy your local Ford stores. And buy Jefferson. Call 1-800-JEFF now or visit jefferson.edu. 2-1 Mets on top. We go to the top of the 8th inning. Time now for a Hyundai defensive plays of the game.
This play by David Wright, you're not going to see one any finer. Comes in and bare hands this ball. Takes a tricky bounce on number 5 out there, but slings it across the Duda. And this Maikel Franco gets up, throws a bullet over to Ryan Howard at first base. So the 2 third basemen throwing some leather at him tonight. That an excellent play by Maikel. Now your Hyundai defensive plays of the game, brought to you by your local Hyundai dealers.
So now as we begin the top of the 8th, Conforto will bat. David Hernandez is out of the bullpen. 7 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, 3 walks, and 9 strikeouts for Eickhoff. Hernandez went 2/3 of an inning in yesterday's game. He evens it up, 1 ball, 1 strike. Conforto is 0 for 2. He has struck out twice and walked. Syndergaard might be done. Antonio Bastardo is warming up in the pen. There is the former Phil. Two balls, 2 strikes. That's a foul ball. It's going to go a pretty good ways. Into the Phillies dugout, and the count remains even. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Good thing Murph was preparing for the Major League Notebook, because that ball was coming in right into where he would sometimes be standing. Dangerous. 3-2.
It's all about timing, Tom.
That's exactly
I got out
right.
of there just in time.
Murph's microphone actually had a little bit of that Powerade on there from yesterday afternoon.
Oh, from the celebration.
Getting doused.
Strike 3 called. 10 strikeouts for Phillies pitching as Hernandez rings up Conforto. Well, it's time for the Major League Notebook. Powerade and all. Here's Greg Murphy.
Yeah, notebook is clean. That is a good thing. And the Twins, they are bringing back a familiar face. They are bringing Ron Gardenhire, their former manager, back to the organization. He's going to be a special assistant to the general manager. He's going to work in their scouting department with both the major leagues and the minor leagues. Of course, he won 6 division titles while on the bench with Minnesota. So he certainly will be a good fit in that organization once again. And really good news for the New York Mets family and for Jacob deGrom and his wife Stacy, who have been dealing with complications of their newborn baby Jackson, who was born last week. The baby was very sick for a little while, but today they got good news. They were able to bring the baby home. So the Mets are hoping now that Jacob deGrom will be back in their rotation sooner rather than later. He has been throwing while being away from the team. They hope that maybe he can make his next start in the rotation sometime early next week. But certainly good news, guys.
Excellent news.
Yeah.
The fact that Jackson was able to come home after what was said the other day. Not that it was anybody's business, which is what Terry Collins was trying to say, but that, you know, they were asking for prayers for Jacob deGrom and his family. That is excellent news. 0-2 to Cespedes.
A great feeling for Jacob and his wife to be able to bring their first child home.
Outside, 1-2. Well, this is what we're referring to. Murph didn't see it coming. Were you able to get the Powerade out of your shirt?
Yeah, the shirt and the pants did not fare all that well.
Oh,
my
man.
shoes held up very well. I was happy about that.
Well, that's because they're plastic.
They are plastic.
The Pima Cottons did not handle it well.
Well, you know, they're currently with the dry cleaner getting some tender loving care. So we'll see how that works out.
It was funny because I said, Murph said, what is this all over my microphone? And he didn't know. And he says, oh, it's the Powerade.
Yep,
he
there
said
it
at
is.
first he said it was water. I said, no, it was blue Powerade. And he
There
says,
it is.
was it?
Yeah,
I said, yeah, it was Powerade.
That's the first I'm seeing the replay.
By the way, I think
Exciting
Cesar
stuff.
was aiming for you. I don't think he was even aiming for Freddie Zaffro.
He actually, you know, he threw me a, hey, I'm sorry about that afterwards. I think he felt badly, you know, about the shoes.
Just hand him the dry cleaning bill tomorrow. See how really sorry he is, Murph.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. I say keep it coming. That means we're winning.
Good point.
Valid point.
Would you prefer water, though, than Powerade?
They can anything that, you know, I prefer not like hot liquid, but anything like coffee would not be all right. But anything other than that, I'll take.
2 balls and 2 strikes to Cespedes. Big old pot of coffee.
That would just be wrong.
Ball went skipping through the crowd like a rock on water. Darryl Strawberry came up with it. Wondered what he was doing. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Outside, 3-2 to Cespedes with Duda waiting on deck. This is Hernandez's inning. There's no lefty warming up like yesterday. Got him. Threw one in the dirt, and Cespedes could not hold up. Well, that's 4 straight strikeouts for Phillies pitching. And 11 strikeouts overall tonight. Pretty good battle here. This is the 10th pitch of this at bat.
That's just not recognizing a pitch. And Cespedes says, you know what, I'm not even going to jog to first.
Cam was waiting. He's ready for it. Terry Collins just may have gone over to Cespedes and said, you're moving to another spot in the outfield in the bottom of the 8th inning. We might put Lagares in play center. Inside, 2-0.
You know your pitchers have some good stuff when your 3-4 hitters on the opposition's team have 8 at bats and 5 strikeouts. That's what you like to see. Conforto with 3, Cespedes with a pair.
He's done, isn't he? You think? I mean, Bastardo's been throwing this entire half inning. That one is hit well, and that's going to be a little insurance. Off the facing of the second deck for Lucas Duda, his first home run of the year. But it's now 3-1 New York. Well, that's his 10th career home run here at Citizens Bank Park. So after 27 a year ago, this is his first in 2016.
That ball was smoked. He did hit that double down the left field line his previous at bat. Fan drops a homer. I don't see too many balls go up in that vicinity. But his first 2 at bats, he hit 2 pop-ups that went about a combined 1,000 feet in the air. And that one he got pretty darn good.
Neil Walker is grounded out. He's lined out to right, and he is struck out. 1 ball and no strikes. Swing and a miss late.
Velocity from David's been very good. 94 to 96 tonight.
That one's hit well down the left field line, and it is gone. Neil Walker with his 4th home run of the year. It's now 4-1 New York. They've gone back-to-back, Duda and Neil Walker here in the top of the 8th inning. That's some pop to be able to hit it that way. Talking about letting the ball get deep.
Yeah, this is just a ball up out over the plate, and you're right. This ball is juiced. A short swing. Down and in, up and away for lefties. Always their nitro zone.
(4-1) New York. 4 runs on 7 hits. The Phillies 1 run on 5 hits. Let's see if he can bury Asdrubal Cabrera here. Araujo warming up.
This is the 27th pitch of the inning for David.
Inside. Line drive, base hit it to right field. Well, he's not fooling anybody right now. That's 3 straight hits. And Plawecki's coming up.
We're going to get our answer whether or not Syndergaard is done or not. See anybody coming out in the on-deck circle for the Mets.
Well, Bob McClure's going out to talk to David Hernandez. Now he's got his jacket and his glove, and he's going home. Looks like they're going to go to Bastardo to pitch the bottom half of the 8th inning. So Kevin Plawecki's coming up. Breaking ball, and it's 0-1. To pitch, and inside 1-2. .32 pitches for David after pitching just 2/3 of an inning yesterday. And a toss over, and Cabrera's back. Swing and a miss. He got him, so that'll finally finish up this 8th inning. David Hernandez allows 2 runs after getting 2 outs. So as we go to the bottom of the 8th inning, the task is a little more difficult for the Phils, down by 3. It's Sunday, May 15th, when the Phillies take on the Cincinnati Reds. A bat and ball set, free to fans, 14 and under. Nemours kids run the bases following the game. It's all part of the Reds weekend series. Tickets can be purchased by going to Phillies.com. Maybe stop by the Majestic Clubhouse store, purchase yourself a shirt or a jacket. That is the pink MLB collection, Ben. So that is the ladies section. Juan Lagares, the former Gold Glover, is out in center field as part of a double switch. Cespedes moves from center field over to left field. So Conforto is done. Curtis Granderson is still out right. That is your outfield alignment for New York. And former Phil Antonio Bastardo will enter the ball game here in the bottom of the 8th inning. Antonio, this is his 5th ball game, an ERA of 3.86. He'll face his former buddy Freddie Galvis, Odubel Herrera, and Maikel Franco. Bastardo now 30 years old. It's been his first 6 years in the big leagues with the Phils. Phils signed him originally as Galvis shows bunt, takes a strike. Signed him originally as a free agent in 2005 out of the Dominican Republic. The ball's in 1 strike to Freddie. Freddie is 1 for 3. He has scored the lone run for the Phils. Syndergaard is credited with 7 innings here tonight. 7 innings and 8 strikeouts, 1 run. Madison Reed is warming up.
Antonio's never really been a fan of speeding the game up.
No, he hasn't. Larry's probably over in radio timing him right now. 1-2 pitch. Fouled back to the screen. It remains 1-2. Good year last year for Bastardo. The Phillies traded him over to the Pittsburgh Pirates. He was 4-1 with an ERA of 2.98. He pitched in 66 games. Averaged more than a strikeout per inning pitch, which is the norm for him. And he just struck out Freddie Galvis. And went away here in the 8th inning. Flyers fans are checking the score. What's going on across the street? The story is not good. Their score is exactly the same as ours, as they trail at 4-1 in the 3rd period. Odubel backs out, and it's 1-0.
I think Odubel was taking that pitch all the way.
I believe he was. Bastardo's high school in the Dominican Republic has produced 3 major leaguers and 3 current professional players overall. 2 are in the big leagues. Pedro Siriaco was, I don't think he's with a big league team anymore. I thought he was when he broke spring. But it's Antonio Siriaco and Fernando Rodney. Two balls and no strikes to Odubel. 3-0.
I'd much rather see Odubel just stay in the box and really go through the same motions you would if you had every intention of swinging.
Almost looks like he thinks he's going to get hit with those pitches,
yeah,
the way he's backing off.
Get in there. I mean, there might be a time where you need to go up and game might be on the line and you want to pick up an arm slot. You want to see exactly where the pitch is being released from. The timing, all that timing goes into it with Bastardo's leg kick, and when you need to start to gather yourself as a hitter.
Because this will not be the last time that they will face Antonio Bastardo.
No.
3 balls and 1 strike. Swing and a miss, 3-2. On the Toyota Major League scoreboard, Dexter Fowler has hit his 3rd home run, and the Cubs lead the Cardinals 1-0. Mike Matheny, the manager of the Cardinals, when asked if his team is going to get up for playing the Cubs because it's an extra special matchup because of the rivals, he said, "We will not get up any differently," as Odubel takes inside, ball 4 for the Cubs compared to anybody else. In fact, if we do, and I'm paraphrasing, we should be ashamed of ourselves and give the money back to all the fans who come and watch us play against the other teams.
Exactly right. Whoever you go up against, you just want to flat out beat. I don't care if it's the 86 Mets, the 27 Yanks. You want to beat whoever's in that other dugout.
Franco, a big rip, and it's 0-1. He got a pitch to hit, and he tried to hit it to the moon.
That's impossible, Tom.
Well, you're going to try to do it, you might as well swing like this.
Especially on that pitch. That was a good one to hit.
A 1 pitch coming to Franco. 0-2. Bastardo has challenged him with these last 2 pitches. Got him. 3 straight fastballs. I think one was higher than the other. And Franco strikes out. 2 outs here in the 8th inning, and here comes Ryan Howard.
And Michael swung harder, and hardest. Really not cutting down on that 0-2 swing.
Second time Duda's had to do that tonight.
Antonio doesn't look too comfortable throwing that ball to first base. So Odubel's 13th walk of the season.
Came in 2nd in the league in walks. Howard cannot hold up on that slider. It's 1-2. Odubel did say in spring training that one of his goals was to be more patient. Now, we didn't see it in spring training.
No, we did not.
It is totally different, because usually if you have a goal coming in, you kind of think about it in spring training and try to utilize it in spring training. A ball and 2 strikes to Howard. Odubel goes. Howard takes outside, and Odubel will get to second base. That'll be a stolen base. Yeah, that's his 2nd of the year. If Duda hadn't been holding Odubel on, that would have been a fielder's choice, but because he was holding him on, there was the intent to keep him close. And Howard strikes out. No. Ooh, all right. Dana DeMuth says no swing. Take a look.
This was close. Brian might want to send a thank you over to Dana. What do you think?
A thank you would be appropriate, I think.
Dana, one of the best umpires I ever had the pleasure of working with.
3 balls, 2 strikes. Got him. Threw him a slider. Back-to-back strikeouts for Bastardo. In fact, he struck out the side here in the 8th inning. No runs, no hits, and 1 man left. We'll head to the 9th inning. The Mets on top by 3. Mason deliveries of the game. We go to the 1st inning where it starts for David Wright the opposite way.
Gets a fastball out over the plate by Jerad Eickhoff. Hits a long home run to right field. Duda up top. This one almost to the second deck. He got that one really good off David Hernandez. Neil Walker opposite field on a fastball up out over the plate. Counting for 3 of the Mets' 4 runs, and then your WB Mason deliveries of the game.
Elvis Araujo will take over here in the top of the 9th inning. He'll be on to face Juan Lagares with the Mets on top 4-1. 4 runs on 8 hits for the Mets. 1 run on 5 hits for the Phils. The Phils took 2 of 3 from the Mets up at Citi Field in the 2nd series of the season. The Mets took game 1 of that series. The Phillies won the next 2. Lagares takes it on the inside corner. It's 0-1. 95 from Araujo. Back toward the middle. That'll roll into center field. A base hit for Lagares. So leadoff single here in the top of the 9th inning. And Curtis Granderson has had a tough night tonight against Jerad Eickhoff. We'll look back at this ball game, and it's still a ball game. 3 runs is not an insurmountable lead. But Jerad Eickhoff threw 7 tonight. I thought he was very good. You think about his first outing, 5+, 2 earned runs. Last outing was excellent, but I think he's carried it over to tonight's outing too.
He sure did. Like you said, it's not insurmountable for just 3 runs. but we can't lose. The Phillies do go on to lose this ball game. We can't lose sight of the fact that Jared was great. He was very, very good. That breaking ball just continues to amaze me. The command of the breaking ball, mixing some sliders. I saw what a couple good change-ups, which is, if he could start to incorporate that even more so to the lefties, he's going to have even more success.
Well, and he's not Max Scherzer by any stretch. I'm saying this because of the number of pitches that Scherzer has in his repertoire, but Scherzer has 5 that he throws. He threw 5 different pitches yesterday. As that one's hit sharply back toward the middle. Maikel Franco is helped out again by Ryan Howard on the double play. 5-3 in the double play. Just to have the command of more than even 3 pitches as a starter really puts you in a good spot.
You saw him get back in counts with that changeup. Saw him get back in counts with the curveball and the slider. Fastball command was good early on, I thought. Started to get away from that a little bit. Went to his off-speed pitches, able to get back in counts and get outs, get strikeouts. Very, very good tonight.
David Wright is the hitter. Wright tonight is 1 for 4 with that home run his first time up. Fastball, and it's 0-1. Oh, 2. Phillies bottom of the 9th inning. It'll be Rupp, Lowe, and Cesar Hernandez. Those are the hitters that are scheduled. They'll face Jeurys Familia, who is up in the bullpen for the Mets. Araujo buries that. There is Familia. Outside. To right center field, a towering shot, and it is gone. Second home run of the night for David Wright, and it's now a 5-1 ball game. 4 home runs tonight for the Mets, including 2 by David Wright, both solo shots the opposite way. Before they moved the fences back in New York, well, before they moved from Shea Stadium to Citi Field, that was where a lot of his power came from, was going the opposite way.
Just does a good job of staying inside the baseball. The slider that just didn't get down low enough. Well, that's called getting extension. You finish high, create that backspin.
So Wilmer Flores will bat for the pitcher here. Fly ball left center field. David Lowe is under it, and he puts it away. That's the final out, but the Mets tack on another run on the home run by David Wright. They get a couple hits in the inning. Middle of the 9th, last chance for the Phillies. They trail at 5-1 to New York. Metallica will break down tonight's series opener, and we'll hear from Pete Mackanin only on Cure Auto Insurance presents Phillies post-game live. Phillies trail at 5-1 as we go to the bottom of the ninth inning. And Jeurys Familia will be the new pitcher for the Mets. Familia, who last year was able to close out 43 games. He has 3 saves and 3 opportunities so far this season. This is not a save situation. It was a few moments ago until David Wright hit the home run, but he was already warmed up and ready to go. So he'll face Cameron Rupp. And then David Lowe. There's David Wright, who has 2 home runs tonight. Both opposite field shots, both solo shots.
He's been a Philly killer over his career.
It's 22 home runs here at Citizens Bank Park. And again, you know, it's that right center field gap that really benefits him. So here comes Cameron Rupp. Cam going to try to get something rolling here. Cameron 0 for 3. A pitch low, and it's 1 ball and no strikes.
I know the PC thing to say for closers, and just to keep some type of civility in the clubhouse is, you know, do you get upset when you're not in a save situation? Boy, Cameron. But he was in a save situation, like you said minutes ago, and then now all of a sudden he's not.
Well, and I think that if you're the Phillies, you kind of try to obviously come from behind here against him. But man, run up that pitch count. Make sure that he is unavailable at some point in this series.
Yeah. But you're going to say that as a teammate. No, it's just a matter of us getting a win and getting, you know, winning the first game of the series and all the good things to say. But down deep, you know, these closers, they want to see that S next to their name when they read the box score.
Yeah, they don't want to see GF and no S.
No.
Game's finished. David Lowe tonight is 0 for 3. He's grounded out 3 times, and he takes outside. It's 1-0. Phillies have used 1 pinch hitter here tonight. So if it gets to that point, they have the opportunity to use Darren Ruff. Andres Blanco, 2-0. See if they get another base runner here and put the heat on a little bit. That one's out to right field. That'll drop in for a base hit. It goes to the fence. Rupp on his way to second, or the third base, and Lowe on his way to second. So the Phillies have runners on second and third with nobody out. Well, that home run now is huge for David Wright because the tying run would have been coming to the plate. Instead, the Phils have a little rally kicking up here in the bottom of the 9th inning.
Did you think this ball was hit this hard, Tom?
I did.
My ears, it sounded like almost like he broke his bat, but as soon as that ball came off the bat, it came off hot, and it got to the right field wall in a hurry.
That surprised me how fast it took the bounce.
Yeah. That's just the sound didn't sound as crisp as you would normally on a ball that's hit that hard, but that ball was smoked.
David Wright is in on the grass at third with Cesar up at the plate. Runners on second and third. Low, ball 1. Cesar singled his last time up, 1 for 2 in this ball game. Walked his first time.
That's hurtful. That's hurtful. Let's give them 2 hours of a bad ride home.
1 ball, 1 strike. Cesar, boy, I know it's not his thought process to shorten up here. These are 2 really long swings that he just took. He's got good numbers against Familia and very limited ABs. It's 1 ball and 2 strikes. And he strikes him out. That was not the best of at bats. Down by 4 with the first 2 runners in the scoring position for Cesar. It'll bring Andres Blanco to the plate. Familia is just a tough pitcher, though. I mean, those are tough. That ball was moving down.
The movement that he gets. I remember texting you and Matt when the ball club was up in New York at Citi Field, and how he makes the ball move that much at 96 to 98. I mean, it's straight down. Straight down.
Well, now Blanco, one of the heroes in yesterday's ball game. He tied the game up by scoring Peter Borges, who he's pitch hitting for here. Ruff is on deck. 1 ball and no strikes, 98. There's Darren Ruff. You have a theory here on whether you take a strike or if you get a good pitch to hit, you going after it.
You don't want to fall behind against Familia. He's got such good movement. If you get a ball that's up in the zone, you really just try and take a good pass at it.
Thought it was interesting listening to Andre talk yesterday after the game about his approach. He said, I don't really have any specific approach. I'm just going up there looking for a good pitch to hit, which I guess is his approach, but he's not trying to work the count or anything. No pinch hitter really does. But he, in theory, wasn't looking for like a slider or a forkball from Papelbon. He was just looking for a pitch up that he could drive. That one he hits sharply to first. Duda will take it to the bag. A run scores. And it's a 5-2 ball game. Well, there's not much you can do about it. He hit it hard. 3 unassisted. And Darren Ruff will come up.
You hit the ball hard. After that, it's out of your control. That's exactly what Andres did right there. Do it in the right spot.
So Darren Ruff will be the final chance for the Phillies. Two outs, runner at third. One ball and one strike to Ruff. 1-2.
Tough pitch there, slider down and away.
2-2 to Darren Ruff. That is a tough pitch to hold up on. Mets fans have certainly traveled for this series. Just taking a glance behind their dugout.
Yeah. Quite a few.
It's 2 balls and 2 strikes to Darren Ruff. 3-2.
Pitches are close, but they're balls.
Freddie Galvis hoping for a chance. If he gets up, that means the tying run is coming to the plate. Right now it's 3-2 to Darren Ruff with a runner at third. And the pitch from Familia. Swing and a foul tip hung on to by Plawecki. And the ball game is over. The Mets take game 1 of the series by a final score of 5-2. Phillies do score a run here in the 9th inning. They get a couple hits. They leave one. But David Wright's 2 solo home runs have helped the Mets take the first of this 3-game series. 21st multi-home run game of his career. And it was his first 2 home runs of the season. 5-2 final score. The Mets have defeated the Phillies. We'll be back to Citizens Bank Park to wrap things up right after this.